Good evening, positive people. Buenos noches. Bonjour. Bon dia. Buongiorno. Ni hao. Memenjes. Dobre utro. Namaste. Sawadi. Chawem. Manga nangu manga. Como ye? Sopa wanang sung. Assalamu alaikum. Privet. Guten Tag. Calamara. Konnichiwa. And as they say in some neighborhoods, what's good? My name is Kevin Booker Jr., and this is my guest host today, Daisy Torres. My host, Paulina Batista, she's in Brazil with her family. And here on the Cultural Flip Side, we're all about family. So definitely love her. She's gonna be here next week to give a shout out while she's in Brazil with her family. So Daisy, I know the viewers right now, they're listening, they're tuned in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me on the Cultural Flip Side. This is so exciting. I'm just so blessed and honored to be here filling in for Pauline. Pauline, we miss you, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
So a little bit about me. I want to tell your viewers, well, I was born and raised in Meriden, Connecticut. Shout out to Meriden.
Woo, 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 woo.
I was raised and born there, as like I mentioned. I'm also a former teacher. I taught second and third grade.
Wow.
I was also an English as a second language teacher. And most people don't know this, I also taught high school.
Jeez.
I know.
Wow.
I love education, and I tell you, shout out to my educators, because I know it's been hard during the pandemic. But you are amazing, and so I always have much love for my teachers, educators, paraprofessionals, everything that touches, anyone who touches the lives of children are amazing. So that's a little bit about when I was a teacher, but I am also an administrator. I work for Hartford Public Schools.
Wow.
I am the director of English Learner Services, world language programs. I do bilingual. I do everything language.
That is awesome.
I work with a phenomenal teaching staff in one of the largest school districts in Connecticut. I live in New London.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be living by the shoreline. I love it there. And some people may not know this, but I'm a first-time author. I am so excited that I released my first bilingual children's book in 2019, before the pandemic.
I love it.
And it's an amazing story based on the life of our pet, Lily, and my son, and just what happened when she passed on, and the sadness that occurred. But I turned into something positive, and what happens when dogs cross the Rainbow Bridge. And it's really a lovely story, because it helps people to talk about death and not think about the sadness, but about the positivity, and really how you can talk to children about death. And so I really wanted to bless schools, daycare providers, social workers, anyone who touches lives, and just give them a resource to talk to children about death.
That's awesome.
I'm so excited, and what's even more exciting, Kevin, is that all the proceeds are going into a scholarship for a high school senior going into education or school social work from my alma mater, Maloney High School, Meriden.
Bro, you gotta give me that to get to that.
I'm just so
Jeez,
excited,
man, that's dope.
to give back to my community. So, I mean,
Love it.
I can't complain. I'm very blessed and so excited to be here today.
That is awesome. Daisy, it's an honor and pleasure to have you here. I'm excited to have you on the show. I'm excited about our guests who want to be on the show today, too.
Me too.
Oh, my God. We're going to have a great show. And today's topic, for all you viewers out there who are listening right now, today's topic is about police accountability, because silence is compliance. And we have an awesome poet today, Ratasha McBride, and we have some other guests who are coming on the show. So I'm going to tell you everything right now, because I know you're going to love it. You're going to be tuned in. So this week has been a long week. We've been going through a lot. So Daisy, I know people right now, they're going through, just all the different changes that are occurring right now, not just in our state, but throughout the nation.
Right.
When you think about the CDC guidelines and things that are going back, and, people are dealing with depression and, just a lot of different issues right now that people are going through. And I just think about shows and movies and music, and sometimes we just need to tune out.
Yes.
Right? So right now, I just want to know, Daisy, what have you been watching?
Oh.
I mean, girl, you got to really tell me,
well,
what's going on?
It's interesting. I'm getting into Netflix lately. And I'm really been trying to get back into my culture, right? And so Netflix has some really, I know, don't laugh.
I know.
Don't laugh. But they have some Spanish novelas.
Oh.
Right?
So
and
for the viewers out there who don't know exactly about the novelas,
yes,
break
it's
it
like,
down
you
for
know,
me.
it's like a soap opera, basically, right? And there's this show called, and I bet you my viewers, some of you know what I'm talking about. It's called La Reina del Flow, right? It's just about like a reggaeton artist, how she, you know, was wronged.
I'm gonna have to check this out.
Yeah, and she was coming back for revenge. I got hooked. It was like 80 something episodes.
Are
I
you
think
serious?
I watched
Were
that.
you binge watching?
I was binge watching.
Oh my God.
It was amazing. And you know, I picked up on some Spanish because it took place in Colombia.
Wow.
And so I picked up on, you know, different, you know, dialects, and I'm learning a lot. So I'm like, yeah,
Jeez.
you hear me saying bacana, eso está bacana, and I'm like, oh, what is that, right? And I'm like, wow. You know, so I really, it brought me back to when I taught Spanish. So
Wow.
I'm really enjoying that. But I also have some things on music that I'm doing too.
Oh.
Right, but first I want to hear what you be watching. What are you watching?
The show I watched 2 great movies this week.
Ooh.
Yeah, one show that I saw was on Amazon Prime, right?
Good show.
And
Good
the
network.
movie is Billie Holiday versus United States.
Wow, I haven't heard of it.
Whoa!
Tell us what
I
it's
tell
about.
you. And the movie was so fantastic. The actors, I'm not going to even say you all the the A-list actors that was in this film, but this film is such a phenomenal movie. It's about Billie Holiday and her plight and her struggle and her fight for racial injustice and singing her famous song, Strange Fruit.
Wow.
And how she was denied, and how anytime she would sing the song, she would get arrested. And how the FBI would also, once they had on a list of individuals that they would actually, you know, want to like target because she was fighting to make sure people understand lynchings and how lynchings were occurring in the United States. Powerful film. Powerful.
Wow.
And then of course I had deep. It was deep. And then I got into another film called Nobody, and it's in the movie theaters now. And I went to the movies, you know, but I had my mask on and everything.
You went to the movies?
I went to the movies.
It's been forever
I
since
know.
I went to the movies.
I went to the movies and I watched this movie called Nobody, and it was an
Wow.
action film. I enjoyed it. I had a great time.
That's
I recommend
awesome.
some of you, if you're out there, definitely go check it out. It was a great film, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh my goodness.
So I want to tell all the storyline
No, I gotta
about
go watch
everything.
it now.
Yeah, you
Now I
gotta
gotta
watch
watch
it. Just
it.
kind of like I gotta watch yours. You
La
know?
Reina del
Yeah,
Flow.
yeah.
Got you. How about music? What are you listening to?
Music right now. Wow. Probably Batista. I don't know if you have listened to some of his new music.
Not
Yeah,
recently, but tell
he
me.
works on Steve Colbert's show.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a new album out, and it's a phenomenal album. I would highly recommend that many of the viewers right now, if you're listening and stuff, definitely tune in to his music. He's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal artist, and like he said, he doesn't like to be boxed in to a genre, and that's one thing I love about him as an artist.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, you know, my music is for the humanity. It's for everyone.
I love that about music, isn't it? Music is just like food for the soul.
It is.
Do you want to hear what's on my Pandora?
I want to hear.
Okay, so
Okay, here
I
we go.
commute to work every day,
Oh,
right? And I have a
oh.
long commute because I travel from New London to Hartford, but I actually don't mind it because on my Pandora I have Will Smith radio.
Oh my God, here we go. Get jiggy with it.
Mine's Summertime, right? That's my favorite song,
Let me
right?
see you remember the lyrics. Here we go.
Don't put me on the spot like that. for
School
real.
is out and there's sort of a buzz. But back then I didn't really know what it was. But now I see what's
Look at you
happening.
happening.
The way that people respond
to
to,
summer madness.
oh, the weather is hot. Girls are.
Look at you. You are
See, I'm
good.
having too much fun on this. You know what I'm saying?
All
You bring me back to
right.
my Will Smith days. Get
All
jiggy with
right.
it. Chillin'.
Yes,
Oh.
but see, I'm a huge 80s and 90s
Yeah.
R&B fan, and so when I get into that rhythm, it just brings me back such beautiful memories.
You know,
so.
you're bringing back somebody else too. Like I used to love was from the '90s, Humpty. The Humpty. Do the Humpty hump. Do the Humpty hump.
Yes. Yes.
Oh man,
See,
we
all
having way
day.
too much fun on
It's
this.
too much. It's too much. It's too much.
So you know, when we think about poetry, and we know, and when this show today is about police accountability and silence is compliance, and the poet we have today is Ratasha McBride, and Ratasha McBride uses her poetry to actually talk about injustices and issues that are occurring within our nation and also within our communities. So I would like to bring on Ratasha McBride. Ron, I know you out here right now. I want to give you some love too. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a week.
How you guys doing?
Good to hear your voice, Ron. And Ratasha McBride, it is so good to see you. You look so beautiful.
She does.
Oh my gosh.
Look at her.
Thank you.
She's
Thank you so much. How are
Stunning.
you?
Stunning.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
Doing well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's amazing. I'm so excited to be on the show today. I really, truly thank you for inviting me. Thank you for wanting to hear what I have to share and giving some enlightenment to certain aspects and certain issues and finding value in what I have to offer. So I just want to say I thank you tremendously for considering me and inviting me and having me on. Daisy and Kevin, I thank you so very much.
That's awesome. Dan, thank you so much for being on the Cultural Flip Side. You know, it's an honor to have you on this show. So for the viewers out there, Ratasha McBride, who is Ratasha McBride? Please let us know. Who are you?
Well, I'm a fun-loving, exciting person who just loves family, love music. You're talking about music, and I just got all excited and in my spirit about different music. What's going on in my world in my car right now as I listen to K-Love. It pumps me up every day. It's 106.9 for anybody who doesn't listen to K-Love. It's a Christian radio station, but they are always rocking. So
That's awesome.
So I get my exhilaration and my excitement when I get in my car. I just feel glorified and praised each day. I love family. Right behind me are my two angels, as you can see over my shoulder. I lost my mom in March of 2019, and then just shortly thereafter, I lost my dad in March of 2020, not even 365 days apart. So,
Natasha, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm excited. I always have this my picture in my office in my background, depending on where I'm sitting during the day. I have to switch around my chair, but right now they're behind me over my shoulder. I was blessed enough to have a family member capture a picture from when a time was when they were together and they had just had me. So,
Right.
so I'm excited to always have them by my side. As far as me and my personal life goes, my professional life goes, I am currently an education technology specialist. I work for CREC, the Capital Region Education Council. I've been at CREC for 27 years and in my current position of education technology specialist for 20. So I definitely am an old hat at CREC and have been there for quite some time. I am also a new entrepreneur. I'm excited to have launched my new jewelry business. It's called Jubilee. So I'm really excited
Jubilee.
about that. Essentially, I specialize in beaded jewelry with precious stones and paracord, macrame, and also I'm starting out with some wired jewelry. So I'm excited to expand upon that. And right now, I guess the world is my oyster, and I'm just trying to soak it up and enjoy it.
Tasha, it's beautiful, Julie. I'm
That's kinda
wearing
where I
it
am
right
right now.
now for our viewers. Amazing,
Absolutely.
beautiful. Mine actually says "Believe." It's
Yes.
beautiful. Thank you
Yes.
so
I have
much.
my piece on right now. It
And mine
actually
says
has
warrior.
my angel wing,
Oh,
and
Wow.
and yeah, I love giving the opportunity for people to receive energy and peace and light. And my jewelry will have proceeds that go to a charity. So I'm excited, and I just love giving light and energy to people and beauty at that.
oh, it's gorgeous.
Thank you so much, Ratasha, for the bracelets.
You're
I mean,
so,
they are
so
amazing.
very welcome. You're so
Really
very
appreciate
welcome,
you.
and thank you. I appreciate your acceptance of them, and I hope you get lots of enjoyment.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Ratasha, how did you get into poetry? And what inspired you to actually start writing poetry?
So I guess overall, I think first and foremost, I didn't realize that I had poetry in me. Some time ago, I had a few tragedies that happened in my life, and one of them was the murder of my younger brother when I was 20. He was missing for a couple of weeks, and then he was found wrapped in a rug, left in a
my
park, and
gosh.
kind of discarded, if you will. without any recourse. And so that was a really tough time in my life. And there were several other young men about his age that were also murdered and kind of discarded in the same token, and without much accountability, without much investigation, and no one ever found out kind of what happened. And I think it kind of sat on me for a long time in my heart, and I don't think I knew that it was living there until one day it came out. You know, I'm the mother of a young Black man. He's now older. He's 31. He just turned 31 recently. And I look at him as a source of inspiration. It was a tough deal raising a young Black man, and being single and being his mom back in, you know, the early 90s. So, you know, at some point, what I realized is that one of someone significant to me was incarcerated. And it was like there was this whirlwind of pressure and emotion just building up inside of me. And I wanted to do something to indicate my disdain for just the idea of just continuously going to jail and not being able to be a part of your family, and not being able to be a part of our lives, and just not being available. And so at some point, you know, in 99, I wrote a poem. And it's really a piece, if you will. And it was a piece dedicated to this person who was incarcerated, because I felt like they could do a lot better with their lives. And then it became an idea in my head that many men who are incarcerated could potentially benefit from this word. So when I wrote it, and I wrote it with that thought in mind, to disseminate it to, you know, inmates far and wide. That didn't come to fruition, and I kind of think now it might be that time. All sorts of things have been taking place in our universe. You know, one of the most poignant moments for us, I think, as of late, is the issue that happened with George Floyd. It gave me an understanding. You know, I thought about my son. He's only 31. George is 46. Absolutely. And I sit and I think to myself, that could be my son. That could really be my son.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, truth be told, I still haven't been able to completely watch the entire video of what happened to him. But I recently reread the poem that I'm going to share a few excerpts from. I recently reread it in its entirety, and I still cannot believe that in 1999, when I wrote this poem as an inspiration from God, these things are still happening, and they've been happening for decades. And it's just, it was powerful to me to realize, wow, this is what I was thinking back in 1999, and here we still are.
Wow.
So that's kind of what inspired me to write these pieces and several pieces thereafter.
Natasha, I just want to say thank you so much for being vulnerable. It takes a lot of courage, you know, to come on a show and share, you know, about your experiences. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on the Cultural Flip Side. Can you share that piece that you wrote titled The Spirit of a Black Man?
I can and I will, and I ask for grace and light, and I ask for God's blessings right now as I do share, because again, it's all these years later, it's still powerful for me. Wow. So I want to thank you for allowing me a safe, vulnerable space, and I hope that this reaches people. I hope that, you know, we come together just as a society and we start to understand that it's insane that this is even happening.
Wow.
So I'll go ahead and share. It's called The Spirit of a Black Man. The Spirit of a Black Man. Black man, do not let your pride be stripped away from you, for you are a strong being. The walls which now encircle you are only temporary. Don't let the rest of your life be led by the ways in which you are now living, for you are loved, and you should never let anyone or anything take that knowledge away. At times, things probably seem as though they are never going to change, but remember this: only you can change you and the things in your life. The actions you take dictate the life you will lead. Keep in mind the definition of Black. Black, the darkest color, ideally that represents total absence of light, destitute of light, so dark there is no color, enveloped in darkness, void of light, soiled with dirt, foul, sullen, hostile, foully or outrageously wicked, indicating disgrace or dishonor. A Negro, one of a dark-skinned race, or one having Negro blood. Black men are vital to our society, but we need good, strong Black men. What good are you to us locked away like animals? Black men have been programmed to believe that they cannot accomplish anything, and most of them don't. You are not alone in there. Most times you may be by yourself or around others that you would prefer not to see, but you are not alone. As long as you are still breathing each day, you are not alone. You always have you, the same person who you came into this world with. You are precious and you are loved. The spirit of a Black man is powerful. Black people as a whole have struggled far too hard for far too long.
Wow.
Amen.
What has our generation done to thank the people who struggled and died for us? Is getting arrested and spending most of our lives in jails, gangs, fighting and killing each other a way to repay them for all they did? Open your eyes, Black man, and recognize your ways. Be true to yourself, if no one else. We are not promised tomorrow. We are not promised the next minute or even the next second for that matter. I pray to God to allow the words that you need to hear to flow through me. Always remember, you are not alone.
Wow.
That is deep.
Amazing.
Powerful.
Powerful.
Oh my goodness.
Latasha McBride.
That's,
The spirit
Wow.
of a Black man.
my goodness.
Whoa.
I have chills. I have chills.
Latasha, thank you so much for reading that poem on the show.
What a blessing. What a blessing, what a gift you just gave the world right now for sharing that. Thank you so
Wow.
much for your vulnerability, for opening up, for sharing that very private, intimate part
Yes.
of your life.
Yes.
Thank you.
It just resonated with me.
Absolutely.
I mean, honestly, Tasha, when I think of when I listen to you,
Yeah.
being an educator, all I could think about was that poem needs to be in every single curriculum that we give students. So it needs to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
I love it.
My ultimate prayer is that not only does it become put in the hands of students, but that it ends up somehow in the hands of every inmate.
Yes.
Every inmate needs to know, even, men of color, not men of color. There's something that to me resonates with every single inmate, because there's aspects of confinement that people succumb to that they don't even realize how it perpetuates. Don't understand that. And so, it would be my prayer that it ends up in the hands of at least every single Black man who's incarcerated, at least every single Black man who's incarcerated. They need to know that that's not where they need to be.
Latasha McBride, how can people get in contact with you? You have been such an inspiration on this show on so many levels.
Amazing.
And we definitely have to have you back. You are amazing, an extraordinary woman. I think of Maya Angelou right now.
Yes.
Phenomenal woman. And thank you so much for being on the show. But can you please share for the viewers out there who are watching this show right now, who are inspired by you, by your story, by your vulnerability, your courage? Can you share, how can people get in contact with you?
Absolutely. So a very, very simple shortened link URL. You can reach me. It's bit.ly/Ratasha. That's again, bit.ly/RATOSHA.
Nice.
That's how you can reach me. And when you reach that site, you're going to see contact information for me. You'll see a business phone number that you can reach me. You will see my Jubilee logo with the email for the jewelry that we described. And just so you can take a peek, this is just a little insight into a number of different pieces that we have available. And there are many, many, many more to come. You will also see my Instagram link to access me on Instagram as well.
Wow.
So there's plenty of ways to reach me. I look forward to connecting and networking with as many people as possible. I love you all, and I thank you so very much for trusting in me, inviting me to your show, allowing me to share just a little bit of myself and a little bit of my wisdom in the world.
Tasha, thank you so much for being on the Cultural Flip Side.
Yes,
we love you. We
we
appreciate
do.
you. Just thank you.
Many blessings and best of luck.
Yeah.
We are just so appreciative of your time today.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal
Thank you.
woman.
And again, enjoy your Jubilee
Oh my
jewelry.
God, thank you so
Oh, yeah.
much. Can't wait to buy more.
I gotta share this with the guys too.
Awesome. I'm loving
Yes.
it. Thank you.
Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Yep. Wow, she is amazing.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
You know, what really just resonated with me there is just, it was so moving.
Wow.
Like I said, the hair stood up for me.
Yes.
And I could connect completely with her, being having been a single mom myself of a young man of color. I could connect very much to what she was saying, and and I was thinking about my nieces and nephews who are mixed, right? They're
Right.
half Puerto Rican, half black.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, my nephew needs to hear.
Absolutely.
Hear this positivity. I love it. God, she's been
Yeah.
blessed. She is a blessing.
And I'm just thinking about my students, and I'm thinking about my own nephew, and members in my own family.
Yes.
And how it just inspired me to continue pushing on.
Yes.
Even when I have my own doubt within my own self, that self-doubt,
Yes.
just to continue pushing on.
It's so important.
was
So
powerful.
important. She was amazing.
Amazing.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome.
And, and I just think about, all the stuff we have going on, and this past week, when we talk about, she touched on some major issues there with incarceration and the police, and when she talked about her brother
Yeah, that was.
and going through the issues, and people not even investigating that case and those cases that occurred.
Yes.
So I'm really inspired by our two guests today that we have. State Representative Anthony Nolan, who's
Yes.
also a police officer in New London.
All right.
And we have State Representative Joe DelaCruz as
I
well.
love it. Yes.
And they're here to talk about the police accountability bill.
Big
And
topic,
there's
big
a lot of things that have been occurring, throughout
Yes.
the nation as well. Something that resonated right away with me with a particular case with, people keep talking about George Floyd, but it's not about George
It's not
Floyd.
exactly right.
It's not.
No, it's not.
What is this case about?
Derek Chauvin.
Derek Chauvin.
That's right.
That's right.
Derek Chauvin.
And something that resonated with me this past week was when the prosecutor said it wasn't 8 minutes and 46 seconds. It was 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
Wow.
9 minutes and
Wow.
29 seconds.
That's
That hit
just-
home for me
Absolutely.
on so many levels. Even the 8 minutes and 46 seconds, right? But it's just thinking about what was going on during that time period.
Absolutely.
And then all these people, all the witnesses, the bystanders who are sitting there saying, "What are you doing? You need to stop."
Exactly. Exactly. And to think that's, think about your nephew, your brother, your sister. Is that acceptable behavior?
Right.
Right? For any one of, someone you love?
Right.
Absolutely not. And what was really interesting for me about the case that I'm following too is just this idea that, that Mr. Floyd had drugs in his system. It does not matter.
Or
What
bringing
was-
up the $20
Exactly. That
counterfeit
does not
bill.
matter, right?
Yeah.
Someone's life was taken.
That's correct.
Right? That's the issue here.
This is
right?
about humanity.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm really excited about our two guests.
Yeah, I'm really excited because these are the two extraordinary individuals
Yes.
who are dedicated and committed to just their city of New London and Groton. And also, before they were even in office, they were all about their community and still invested in their community. So these are two individuals I have a lot of respect for. I'm looking forward to having them on the show, and they're coming on now. So
yeah, and you know what I love about
that?
Anthony Nolan, right? I was just talking about, when he's so present when I was working for New London Public Schools, he's all about the kids, right? He's really just an integral part. Even when I was doing some of the protesting down in New London, he's a joy. So I can't wait to connect.
And State Representative Joe DelaCruz, he's all involved in the community. He's always there for the union workers and just whenever there's an issue occurring as well. So these are two extraordinary individuals who had to have a conversation about the police accountability bill. And you know what's even more interesting? They both were Democrats, and they both had to make a decision if they were going to be for it or not. So let's find out. Let's find out a little bit about what went on and about some of the issues and some of their concerns. It's good to see you both here. Thank you so much for coming on the Cultural Flip Side today. If you can share a little bit about who you are, I'll start off with State Representative Anthony Nolan for all the viewers out there who may not know you, but I'm quite sure that people know the both of you and know the work you're doing. I greatly appreciate it. State Representative Anthony Nolan.
How you doing, everyone? Just excited to be here and have some conversation. Sometimes we don't talk enough visibly, and unfortunately, because of the COVID, we aren't able to get out as much information as we want to in person. But we're glad, Joe and I are glad to be able to come before you and have some discussion and let everybody know what it is.
That's right.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you, Anthony.
And State Representative Joe DelaCruz. You can let the world know who you
Mr.
are.
Booker. Well, I'm excited. First of all, thank you for having this show. And I think everyone knows who Kevin Booker is by now. You started all these, discussions and groups and bringing people together that normally wouldn't be together over these past few years. I've been to attended some of the programs that you put on at Groton Library and all these other places, New London. You're doing a great job. I think discussion is what's needed. And we had that big discussion last year. I think Anthony would tell you, and for me, personally, probably the toughest bill I ever voted on.
Wow.
There was a lot of work that went on behind the scenes. Obviously, the bill was full with a bunch of different policies that I was 100% on board with, as far as training and, the chokeholds and a lot of different things that we worked on. That I was proud to see go into that bill. And obviously, I ended up voting against it. And, there was a lot of people that obviously, I got put up in Hartford and folks expect you to vote the way that, the way that they would have voted up there. But there were a lot of different parts of that bill that I thought, like I said, were great. The one that the qualified immunity part was the sticking point for me. And again, I think me and Nolan, we had a lot of discussions about it. What our interpretation was, what he thought it meant, what I thought it meant. And, ultimately, I think in the end, we're all people. Even the cops, they're just people. And I think they needed to understand it, maybe the way that Nolan did. I think there's still, and remember too, we always fight, misinformation. It doesn't matter what bill it is. You'll have people that'll be on one side of it that are just saying things that completely aren't true. What I had noticed, this is basically my fifth session. And up until last year, up until George Floyd, up until all these folks came out and marched and protested, if we had a bill called police accountability and it was given police $10,000 bonuses, the Republicans still would have had a problem with it because it said accountability in the bill.
Yes.
And they would have had police come out and protest the bill because it said accountability. So the way that people actually got together and marched changed the whole conversation, was able to make that bill even come to the floor. I think 2 years ago, I think Anthony would agree that bill wouldn't even made it to the floor.
Right.
So the discussion that got pushed and where we are today is because of people that marched. And there's no question about that. And I felt like I spoke to both sides. I did. On the issue of, where I had a little bit of issue is the way that the bill went through, because it was a pandemic. It was kind of rushed in a sort of way. And I know people were upset with my vote, but a lot of us didn't have a chance to talk to our police chiefs, on both sides. I think that's a lot of times when we put bills through, a lot of people come in. And again, the bill in the end here, I was happy with the bill overall. There was that one sticking point that prevented me. But I think a lot of good things are coming from it. I still talk to my chiefs about it. We in fact worked on one of the parts sections this year, basically with the chokehold part. And if a police officer feels his life is in danger, so it's not like someone can just go there and do a chokehold. Like if you feel like your life or the life of your partner is in danger, it allows them. So there have been a couple of small changes, but overall, I think the reason we saw that bill was because of the public and all the work and activism that starts with people like you, and obviously all the young kids that just don't want to see it anymore.
Right.
That's right. Joe, thank you so much for your vulnerability and just your courage to speak your truth. Really appreciate you sharing that on the show. And when I think about this bill, this accountability bill, many of you, the two of you, it took a lot of courage for you to take a stance on this bill for different reasons. And State Representative Anthony Nolan, who's also a police officer.
Yes.
And I know many police officers have contacted me. I've had them on different shows as well, and they have different views about the police accountability bill. I mean, Daisy, you have mentioned how one of your friends has left the state.
Yes. So it's really interesting when I was listening to you, Representative DelaCruz, because I have a police officer friend who was working in Connecticut, but because of this accountability bill and the qualified immunity clause, he decided to leave and relocate to Florida. He just felt that it was going to open him up to more lawsuits, and he just didn't feel like it was he could do his job effectively. And so he left, and in speaking to him, they mentioned that a couple others were also looking to relocate to states that did not have this bill. So, I'm just, when I think about you, Anthony, for an example, I'm just wondering, you voted, for the bill, right? And so at work, I would imagine that it must be a little bit interesting in terms of your, like when you go to on your shift and how police or your fellow officers have responded to your stance on this. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
It made it a lot more interesting at work.
That's putting it nicely.
That's nice.
Got it.
Yeah.
It actually made it almost similar to saying safer outside than inside. But the facts are the facts.
That's right.
You talked about your friend leaving Connecticut. Ask your friend what changed in the bill as far as immunity that made him leave. Because to me, your immunity, you still have it. The only reason I think that someone would be scared about immunity is if you did something above and beyond what you are allowed to do, because the city still covers you under the immunity. It's just unfortunate that people use a lot of wrong messages when it came to that, because you're covered under you're still covered under it until you do something that you're not supposed to do. Once you do something you're not supposed to do, then it kicks in to say that, hey, you violated what you agreed to do when you became a police officer. So, why would you hold the city responsible for something when an officer goes up and beyond what he's supposed to do to be cruel and hurt somebody on the job?
No, makes complete sense what you're saying. Absolutely.
So when they threw out that immunity thing, people used it in such a terrible way to make police think that they weren't going to be covered with immunity, and that wasn't the fact. And to this day, it's still not the fact. You're still covered under the immunity. But what they did was they tried to cloud it so much and scare people. They scared people enough to leave Connecticut.
Yep.
And some people said they were going to leave their job. And I said, hey, I really felt that when the people came out in March, because of the issues that they marched about, that was why this bill needed to come forward. Obviously, I'm a police officer, so I'm not going to put in a bill that's going to put a hindrance on things. I mean, was there a couple things in the bill that we needed to go back and look at as far as times for when some of the things changed? Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But in the beginning, when we tried to talk about the bill, two officers, nobody wanted to come forward and talk about it because they didn't think that it was going to pass. Once it came crunch time, everybody wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
But it was too late. The decisions were made. There wasn't time in between the session to stop what we were in the process of doing. And the reason for that is because if we would have made the changes back then the bill might have not passed, and we weren't willing to take that chance.
Absolutely.
You know, so now the bill is it came to fruition, and there's a task force out there that is looking at it to help make whatever changes need to be made. And if it comes to the legislation and people feel that that's something that we should do, then we'll do it. But it was just unfortunate that people were putting out there those things in regards to the bill that weren't true. That's all.
Wow.
Yeah. I would say this much, and I don't want to. I don't know if you had another question in between, but as far as if anybody out there is listening and they think politics are easy and that we just don't sit up there and do anything, it's gut wrenching. Like I knew her, you know. And we always ask, and people ask me, Joe, do you think, is it possible that I become too close to the police because my son was murdered? And I really felt protected by our local police, our chief. I actually went to a trial. I watched and saw how, the defense really puts the police departments on trial. Like, did they label everything correctly? Was everybody, did the person have experience dealing with somebody that was drunk? Or did that officer, was he ever in a domestic violence case? Because this was domestic violence and girls being beat up. There's just so much. And Anthony knows this better than anybody. The police you have to build a perfect case. You can't be sloppy. Otherwise, things don't happen the way they're supposed to. And as far as Anthony, last year, as much pressure as I felt, Anthony felt it on the other side.
That's
For
right.
us to end up, and this doesn't happen often. It has on a couple bills, but Anthony and I normally are in lockstep on a lot of things. So we found ourselves on opposite sides of, this issue. And again, I always go back to that bill and go back to the one piece, the qualified immunity, because I didn't understand it that way. And just the way that Anthony's saying, if people were leaving the state, or if there were that many people that concerned that were police officers at the time that they weren't willing to make a split decision to save their life or their partner's life, then it seems like that bill maybe we needed more time to absolutely have them be positive on what they were doing.
Right.
And I think that's where my struggle was, because we obviously don't want people that are going out to protect us not really be able to follow the letter of the law. I mean, they're police, and their training has them follow everything. And if there's something left up in the air for them, and again, Anthony, I think because he knows the bill so well, probably understands it in a way that a lawyer would.
Right.
But a lot of things pass, and to be a lay person, just saying, well, yeah, the law's not really going to affect me that way. Most lay people know that stuff is written in law that you think doesn't affect you, but it actually does at the end of the day. And I think to get everyone on board first would have been good, but I still, again, we believe in the bill. I think me and Anthony talked about all the other, I think there were 42 sections of the bill. And really, had we passed it without qualified immunity, I think there may have been about 40 or 45 Republican votes, which if that says anything for who runs our country, it is the people. Because when people get out and protest, things change. Like I said, this bill, there's no way it would have any shot at all if people hadn't protested and come out. And that's what it was good to see. In fact, even for me. Go ahead.
Representative DelaCruz, can I ask you a question? You had mentioned when you were speaking about your son. Can you talk a little bit more about that for me? Because I don't really, I'm getting to know you, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show. And I've been reading up a little bit, but for the viewers, can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
And also, State Representative DelaCruz, can you also talk a little bit about how did that case impact your decision?
And that's what I wasn't sure. I had cousins who really believed in the bill, and they would call me and say, Joe, don't be clouded. Don't be clouded because you have this relationship. And my relationship with police was completely. I've run the whole gamut. It's been 180. I graduated high school and I went directly to prison. That was my path. It wasn't my chosen path. I guess I made the choices that made me do that and landed me in prison. But I graduated in London in '89. I went directly to prison. I was supposed to do 6 months. I got out like in 6 days because the prison was so crowded. But I was actually physically in. Went to work my whole life. I was always afraid of cops. I got pulled over a million times. The same story that many young black and brown people could tell. I got pulled over when the first week I had my car. The first time I pulled out, got a ticket. So I knew that side of police. And then I didn't really kind of change my views until when I say my son, it was before he died, because he developed he became addicted to prescription opiates. And the first person we reached out to ended up being the police, because we saw a guy on 60 Minutes up in Worcester, Mass. that was telling anybody that had a drug problem to come in and bring you drugs, and he helped them. Me and my wife went up there. We brought our chiefs of police up there to meet with them. And we really saw, a different side of the police, that they were interested in finding solutions. So we had that relationship with them. And then the night that my son was murdered, we got a call from, a cousin that they heard my son was shot. We drove down the street, followed to the hospital, and basically I got a call from our police department. And right away, he guided us a lot of times. We wanted to go on TV and say, find this guy and do that. He helped us because there's things you can say or shouldn't say, things that we never realized as victims of a horrific crime. I don't think people really can understand what a trial looks like, how the person, again, this is our system, but the person that actually did the crime, he or she has all the rights in the world. They can, everything has to be proven, beyond a reasonable doubt, and it should be. 47 years the person got that murdered my son. He didn't even get murder. He got manslaughter.
Wow.
To watch them pick apart the investigation. And even, there was even a point in the trial where, our prosecutor called us and said, hey, just so you know, one of the police officers that was first on the scene, he was involved in a domestic dispute with his wife. And, that could come up in this trial, and maybe we should go for manslaughter instead of murder. And I said, what are you talking about? Like, when did this happen? That night? And no, it happened 2 years after the trial. But everything is open. And for me, I always thought a cop was just a cop. I know Nolan knows better, but like, all you do is write tickets. I mean, you kind of eat your lunch and you kind of drive around a little bit. But there's so much more to it. And if the T's weren't crossed and the I's weren't dotted, I don't know if we would even had a conviction that way we did. And it led me to again have this great relationship with them. So that night when I was sitting there and I listened to my chief and a couple other police I met about the qualified immunity was the one thing that they felt like was going to change their department in a way that they were afraid. Was it my relationship with the police? Was it, again, when we're up at the legislature, we all got there a certain way. We all lived our lives a certain way, and we got there somehow. So when I had my cousins calling me saying, make sure that that's not clouding you, because they knew how helpful they were to me. They knew how important they were to me. Their friendship is important to me. But it did boil down to that one issue. It wasn't the whole bill. It wasn't that, I only, I'm a cop guy and not a regular person guy. I've lived both sides of it. A lot of my family spent a lot of years in jail. I remember going to visit them. I remember, a lot of my friends have done jail time. I have four people that I graduated high school that are in jail for murder. I know the system, and I think people, again, if you see the comments on my Facebook, it's like, I'm just this, I'm just that. They don't really know who we are. We vote on one bill and they say that guy's stupid, or Anthony's dumb. He's just dumb because he doesn't care about X, Y, Z, and Joe's stupid because he doesn't care about CD, whatever it is. The issue is, but it's amazing how complex all this is, And, there's nobody up there that I think I don't think they're up there trying to hurt the state or trying to do something wrong. It's just that they came from a completely different place. And it's our job to share our story. So, my story, I struggled with it because, I asked myself that a bunch. And when my cousin called me like screaming at me, and I said, before you go too far with it, remember, I have other opinions. That wasn't the only interaction I ever had with police officers. Was that, the one that I experienced was, again, it was the worst time in my life. I don't think anybody wants to go through that. And maybe I built a better, stronger bond than most people would. But I had some bad experiences too. And all those weighed in on my decision that night on that vote. And, again, not easy. I feel like there's members of the Black and Latino caucus that I'm on with Nolan that I don't think will ever look at me the same. But I always have to be able to put my head on the pillow and sleep with my decision. I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't worry about how other people thought. I think everyone feels that way, that they want their colleagues to think highly of them. But I have to absolutely be straight in my decision and be able to explain it like I'm explaining it here today. And somebody on there could be saying, it's all bull, but it really is how I came up with it.
Thank you very much, State Representative Joe DelaCruz. State Rep Anthony Nolan, I see your head was nodding. You were, and I know you can feel your colleagues' pain and frustration. What comes to your mind right now? What's on your mind? As he was talking about some of the things that he has gone through, and also dealing, just touching on some of the issues that you are dealing with too, as well.
One thing that should be known, and I know a lot of people know it, Joe and I had a lot of discussion, and we both knew where we were going in regards to the bill. And we both continue to still have the respect that we do, because Joe and I work as a team, and it's okay to have difference of opinion. I felt strongly in where I felt with the bill, and Joe felt strongly where he felt with the bill because of whatever reasons that he had. And like you said, we all come from different backgrounds and different instances in which we have to deal with things in our community. I felt the wrath of police at one time in my life. And I see what happens in our country, not only our country, our state, when it comes to how police treat people. And there are police out there that are disrespectful to people and that treat people the wrong way. It's not the majority of police, and I need to be clear on that. It's not the majority of police, because even when you say it's a small amount of police, or sometimes when you say there's a good percentage of police, but there are bad apples out there, people always click on your discussion about the good percentage of police, and they feel just because they have a connection with the bad apples that they're just as bad. And I don't feel that's true a good amount of the time. But I do feel some type of way against officers who just sit there and allow other officers to act certain ways. But I got to remind people, you can't only blame the officers. You have to, just like we stepped up for this, people stepped up to rally and to come out and hold signs and talk about how some of these bad apples are. People have to come to the table also and make those complaints. Because when some of those officers that are trying to fight the things that bad apples are doing, we don't get the backing of the people who are making the complaints because they don't want to come forward. Sometimes it's for fear of police, and sometimes it's because they don't feel that the system's going to work.
Wow.
And
I just want to thank the two. I want to thank the two of you for being on the show. I have the utmost respect for the two of you. You are extraordinary, incredible men who are just so dedicated and committed to your community. There are so many people who are just dealing with a lot right now: depression, anxiety. There's so much going on in our community, as the two of you know. In closing, can you maybe leave a statement, a quote, and inspiration, and also share how can people get in contact with you as well, and in case they need you, just be able to talk, vent, ask questions, anything. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll start off with you, State Representative Joe DelaCruz.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on the show, and both of us. And as far as inspiration goes, I think you really don't need to look much further than yourself. And like folks like Rep. Nolan, inspiration's there if you want to find it. I think so many people, especially through this pandemic, we've been stuck. I think on the flip side, though, we've also started to realize that life is more about just money. Life is more about just seeing things that you have. I think what this COVID did to me was really exacerbate not just my neighborhood, but we get to see what New London has compared to what Groton has, compared to what Hartford and Bridgeport and New Canaan has. We see the disparities. As bad as COVID has been, the upside I see is I think that we're going to be able to pay attention more to the disparities and not less, because they really they shined a light on it. Kids that have no internet at home, people that are surprised that people don't have internet at home or access to that. So I think, anything, if you feel down about how the direction we were going, I do feel like there's been this big light on the light that we've been trying to fight, people that we've been trying to fight for, whether it was a minimum wage bill that if you guys were able to be behind closed doors and hear me screaming and yelling about the minimum wage bill and fighting for it, because it takes that kind of fight.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I'm just inspired.
Thank you again, Representative DelaCruz. It was a pleasure listening to your story. You're an inspiration, right? And we just thank you for all the work that you're doing in the community. Anthony Nolan, do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Just like Representative DelaCruz starts, inspiration starts within ourselves. And what went on with the pandemic and how things have gone is proof that people have to work together to make things work. Equality, getting rid of the disparities in things like education, housing, healthcare. We all have to come together to make sure that it's fair for everybody. That's the only way that this can work. There can't be a group of people that are always on the top. There's got to be a shared interest in regards to things. Pretty soon you'll see some bills come up in regards to like marijuana, and though I'm not for the marijuana bill, and if I'm not mistaken, Joe's not for the marijuana bill.
Yeah.
I think it has a good chance of passing. And me and Joe are, at least we're fighting to make sure that there's equity in that bill, even if it passes, to make sure that it comes back to the community, to make sure that the right people get the opportunity to be part of the jobs that it has, to be part of the licensing that it has, so that it just doesn't go to the wealthy folk in our community or state. So I think working together is how we fix things in Connecticut. And if we don't, then we're going to still struggle. So we're fighting to work together to make sure that there's equality amongst everyone, not just some people.
Anthony, can you touch on a little bit about, because I was going to, I'm really interested in knowing, from both of you about the bills that people need to be aware of that's coming down the pipeline. But if you could touch on a little bit about what exactly does equity mean when it comes to the marijuana bill, for those viewers right now who are listening in, what does that mean?
Well, there has to be a fair share in regards to diversity. The Black and brown people have to get a fair share. There's been such a penalty paid for so many decades in regards to marijuana. I was discussing with some kids earlier today, kids that had parents that are locked up for marijuana, and asking me how are people going to vote for a bill when their parents are locked up for the same substance that the state's going to be making money off of. So making sure that one, getting people out of jail for those crimes, getting rid of the past records of those crimes, equality in regards to people being able to feel some of those monies come into our communities to help fight the things that it might open the door to and create because of the substance now being available a little bit easier. Businesses being able to, Black and brown businesses being able to take part in it, the licensing and the sale and the growing of it. Those things are going to have to be mandatory. And I say the word mandatory because when you make it mandatory, then it means that the opportunities are going to be there. It's just not something that's going to be questioned.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
State Representative Anthony Nolan. And Joe DelaCruz, is there one bill that we should be on the lookout for, one or two as well, from you?
Yeah, Anthony, quickly on the marijuana bill, I'm the big jobs guy. Everyone jokes about it and they're saying you should see there's probably 3,000 comments on my Facebook because I was offended when they came out. They put up a bulletin board, a billboard on the side of the highway saying that marijuana and tomatoes are just as safe to grow. But you could say that about the cocoa plant. You could say it about the poppy seed plant. You could really push that easily. But I think what makes me nervous about that bill, to me, is it's kind of being billed as the save all or the panacea for Black and brown communities. And my son had drug addiction problems, and for me, the fact that marijuana was against the law, it kind of gave me an arguing point of why he shouldn't do it. I just, we always say that we wouldn't want to be a parent nowadays. Honestly, the access that kids have to the internet and to all these different things, and now it'd be, marijuana is another thing. And I keep hearing that and again, I feel it. I drink alcohol. I do. And is it worse or better? I think they're probably about the same. And they're both not really good for you. But in the ultimate end, if I can still get a job and drink alcohol, that's one thing. I think because we're so reliant on the defense industry. I'm sitting here right now from my office in Groton, where you have to be drug tested to work here, and many places do. And I think it's a high percentage in Connecticut because we get so much money from the federal government building defense work, and that's a real concern of mine. The other bill I would tell people to look for is, and we can't seem to lift it, is the Kevin Lembo tried to get it last year or 2 years ago. They're calling it the health insurance for all bill. It's not really quite that. It's basically he negotiates now for 44,000 state workers in the state, and he just wants to open that up to even the business I'm at right now. There's only 10 of us here, so if we could buy into the state plan and basically save thousands of dollars and have our employees have better insurance, it's kind of a win-win. But once again, we're going to go up against the insurance, agency companies. I was on the insurance committee for my first 4 years. And I can tell you, to have them in the room and tell them that they're going to abandon Hartford, completely leave it, brick and mortar, everything that's there, just get out of town if we pass a bill like this. And my question to them was, okay, it's your industry. You know how to fix it. Let's see you fix it. Because raising our premium 7% every year is not fixing a problem. I think this is a step towards that problem. And I think almost the way that folks rose up and were about the Black and brown people being treated wrongly by police, I almost think that we all need to take stock and say, you know what, we've had enough of these insurance companies, that we have to fix it, because they're not fixing it. And every time your legislator, me or Anthony, try to say something against the insurance company, the answer is always, well, we're just going to leave and we're going to close business and we're going to take away people. We're going to take business out of Connecticut. We need to fix that, I think, federally. I don't think we should allow these companies just to cut and run. To me, that's one of the biggest bills. I don't know how we compete, not just as a state or as a country, if we don't fix our insurance problem. And those are humongous bills. To me, more important than almost any other bill that we see coming up. And I'm not sure if we have the muscle or the wherewithal to get that over the top, but we have to have that in the forefront of all of our discussions. I think every home in this state can talk about insurance easily because it's kind of a runaway train right now, and I think we have to somehow take hold of it.
I think another bill important to look out for is how the governor takes care of the education of our children. We are pushing to change that ECS and that alliance to make sure that it comes in appropriately. And though we don't like how the governor put out most recent educational funding formulas to stay flat, we're pretty much in a little uproar against that, and we want to see that change because we know that our kids need a lot of equality in regards to education also. So that is a high priority bill for us to try and fix.
Thank you for lifting that, Officer Nolan, because I will tell you that I actually just gave public testimony on that bill about equitable funding, right, in education, being an educator myself. And I will tell you, it is a serious issue, right, about the flat funding and the need to invest in our children, right?
Absolutely.
And that is a huge piece in our most vulnerable populations, right? Our English learners, our students of color, right? Our special education students. I can go on, but you get it, right? But that is important, and I wanna lift that for our viewers because it is important. Our voice matters, right? So thank you both for sharing the importance, right, of understanding how to support these local bills.
Absolutely. I want to thank you both, for being on the show today. You are two extraordinary individuals. I appreciate you. I just thank you so much for all the work you're doing throughout the state and in your own communities as well. I love you, brothers.
Yes.
Just thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you so much, and I would love to have you back as well
Absolutely.
on the
We
Culture
need to.
Flip side. Definitely.
Many blessings.
Anytime.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both for all
All right,
you're
guys.
doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you.
Damn,
Bye-bye.
they are
Amazing.
amazing.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. I tell you.
Wow.
I'm just thinking about, they touched on education.
Yes.
They touched on the marijuana bill,
Yes.
insurance.
Insurance, the health.
What came in your mind right away when you were thinking about some of those things?
Well, you heard me, right?
Yeah.
Education's going to be like right there
I already
for me.
know, I already know.
We're
I know,
both
I know,
educators.
I
You
know.
know how passionate I can be
Yeah.
about that, right? I'm
Yeah.
a strong advocate, but I loved it because, they had very opposing views, but you could feel the passion. Each one entering the conversation from personal beliefs.
Absolutely.
Right? Representative DelaCruz with the situation with his son, and then Nolan coming in from the stance of being a police officer and a rep, and how all of that
Right.
just being a community presence. I thought it was really enlightening. But for me, what resonated was I think one piece was about the healthcare, right? I can't tell you, I'm a mom of a 26-year-old boy. I know, that's hard, people are like 26-years-old, right? I know, I'm like, wow, yeah. But, the most important, he recently just came off my insurance as soon as he turned 26. Recently, in January, right? And
Wow.
He's a recent college graduate. He's trying to find his way. And, that's a hard thing, right? For people who are uninsured and
Right.
coming off their mom's, their parents' insurance or just don't have insurance. I think that's an incredibly important piece that he lifted. So I thought that was really, really important. What about you? What do you think was something?
I think all the bills are extremely important, and I think also when they touched on the aspect of marijuana and equity in marijuana, and who will benefit from this bill, and why, and what social factors play a role with those particular marginalized groups benefiting or not.
Absolutely.
So that's something I'm definitely gonna be looking down the pipeline on and seeing what happens, and I would like to be in those meetings
Me too.
and listen in.
Me
so I
too.
appreciate them being on the show.
No, I absolutely agreed, and I liked when Representative DelaCruz mentioned, I know, I'm on the fence, and
Right.
about the alcohol,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what I think of
Right,
too. It's
right.
like, well, we benefit off the sale of alcohol,
Right.
right? And we make all this money off of that, and you see many accidents a year from drunk
Right.
driving and all that. I mean,
Right.
I'm
know,
just saying,
I know,
right?
I
So
know.
I would love, Kevin, if
That's
we could
another discussion.
we need to dig deeper into that. That's all I'm saying. That's another topic.
So, looking back on the show today, wow, we had
Amazing.
3 extraordinary guests.
Amazing.
Shout out again to Ratasha McBride.
Yes.
I love the bracelets.
Yay, this is awesome.
Shout out to State Representative Anthony Nolan.
Nolan.
Shout out to Joe DelaCruz, State
Absolutely.
Representative Joe DelaCruz. This was a great show.
This was an amazing show. Thank you for having me here.
No, thank you for being on the show. I greatly appreciate
This
you.
is a great
You know
topic.
what quote like resonates with me when I think about today's show? I think about Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. And I'm just thinking about, when he says, be the change you wish to see in the
Perfect.
world.
That's a perfect recap here. Yes.
Because that's exactly what our three guests today are doing. They are
Yes.
being the change that they wish to see in the world. And
Agents
they're
of change.
agents of change. And they're not allowing their voice to be silent.
Nope.
Because silence is a form of compliance.
Absolutely.
And they're using their platform to help and inspire others.
Yes, and that's what equity is, right? I know Anthony talked about equity, but that is, you're not going to make everybody happy, but you need to be able to sleep at night
Yeah.
and be true to your core beliefs.
So
in
I
each one of
I
them.
know many of our viewers, and many people are like hurting and struggling on so many levels. So let's do a quick prayer for those people out there. God, thank you so much for bringing us all together. Thank you for this wonderful time that we're able to come together as a community and just continue to inspire each other. We love you and appreciate you. Amen.
Amen.
So remember, everyone, you can pray anywhere. You can meditate, take a walk, and also just log on to the Culture Flip Side because we are here and we want to see you continue to be your best self.
Absolutely.
So continue to be the change you wish to see in the world. And thank you for joining the Culture Flip Side today.
Thank you.
Love you all.
Many blessings.
Peace.
Bye-bye.